Hay un montón de momentos inolvidables de los Simpsons que se han convertido en memes. Por eso, cuando hablé con Brent Forrester, guionista de algunos de los capítulos de esta producción, le pregunté la historia detrás de algunos de esos momentos. Por ejemplo, hablamos del limón de Troya y su origen, también hablamos del famoso capítulo de Bart contra Australia, pero también conversamos sobre la noción que tenían en Fox sobre Tommy y Daly, que parece, los rumores dicen, que en el estudio no estaban muy contentos con estos personajes. Fíjate todo lo que me cuenta este histórico guionista y productor de la serie.
We now return to Mira Akien and Contré with our latest interview.
And I was very young, 26 years old, and really eager to impress the other writers there. And so the thing you most wanted as a young writer on The Simpsons was to get your own episode. So you pitch an idea for an episode, and then they assign you to write it.
¿Qué se pone impuesto a las rosquillas?
¡Oh! The idea was, can we do an episode that really has no one driving story, not one character in it, but just jumping from one to another? And then each of the 22 short films was given to another writer. And because there were, 11 writers at the time, each of us got to do 2 of them. And I remember I did 2 of them. For me, it's one of my favorite jokes that I've ever written. It's a physical comedy joke where Homer has the baby in one arm and the groceries in the other arm, and he goes to buy a newspaper, and so he opens it up and sets Maggie down, and then gets this and puts down the groceries here, and then he's got the newspaper, he's got the groceries still, but the baby is in the
Yeah.
Listo, bolsas, perro diario.
Oh! Gosh, I don't know how much was given to me. I think it was that we would get again like a little a 3x5 card would be handed to you. So I got 2 3x5 cards. One was Mr. Burns on a bike, and the other was Homer shopping with Maggie. And so and you had to write a very quick, just one joke, and they were looking for visual comedy. So I just remember those kiosk boxes. When I was a kid, you could go up to those newspaper boxes, pull on the handle, and then bonk them on the top and go boom, and it would open. You could get a free newspaper. So maybe that was the origin of it.
Y así ese día nació la ciudad de Springfield. Y para conmemorar el momento, nuestra gente plantó este hermoso limonero.
A lot of writers on The Simpsons were history fans. They loved history. And this one, the flashback to the historical past was very fun for everybody. Writing for Grandpa was something I really enjoyed doing because I could do Grandpa's voice. And when you're a writer in a room full of other writers, if you can do the voice, I used to be full of piss and vinegar. Now I'm just full of vinegar. So, anytime I could write for Grandpa, I would like to do that. And so I had to try to find some original conflict that had never been done. And what I was noticing was there had been many stories where it was Homer versus Bart, or Bart versus Lisa, or Lisa versus Marge. But they had never done a show that was Springfield versus Shelbyville. It had just never been done. So I thought, okay, I'll pitch that. That'll be an original idea. And then as soon as I started thinking that way, it just reminded me of like epic history. And it seemed funny to take the little kids and put them into this epic battle. So of course, thinking of the great epic battles of history, I thought of, the Trojan War and the Trojan horse. And that's how I came up with that ending.
Why a lemon tree?
Why a lemon tree was in my house, in my backyard, there was a beautiful lemon tree planted by my mom. And so as a little kid, there were all these lemons, so that was sort of in my mind. But then I thought it gives you a thing like, kids making lemonade. I thought, oh, okay, so to the kids, this is the key to their economy in their...
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
¿Más limonada, Bart? Ah, por supuesto. Tú me dices.
It was such a puzzling thing to do because, Australians love The Simpsons. They have always loved The Simpsons. And now I've met Australians, and they tell me they were so excited when The Simpsons is coming to Australia. And then the whole episode it's the most insulting jokes you could possibly do about a country. And totally unfair. Like, they're the dumbest, most violent people in the world. But I think what you have to understand is, to the writers, that was kind of the joke. Like, the joke is how unfair and exaggerated these jokes are. So unfortunately, when you get writers that are too smart, It's like a joke on a joke. It's like the joke is about how bad these jokes are. And that's why it became what it is. You know, it's spiraled out of control. But
Ya entendí,
Australia,
papá.
Estados, Australia,
Homero,
Australia,
vamos.
Estados, Australia, Estados. ¡Au! En Norteamérica no toleramos estupideces, señor.
the whole goal for the writers is how offensive a joke can you write about this country? That's what just happens. And this idea of a cliffhanger where, you know, you wonder who shot Mr. Burns, and then we come back and see it again. They had taken that idea from an American show called Dallas, and there was a campaign when we were kids called "Who Shot J.R." J.R. was like the big rich boss of this show Dallas, and they ended it with him getting shot. And then all summer, people were questioning who shot J.R. And there was a lot of talk about that. So they thought they could do that same kind of, you know, gossip campaign to build ratings over the summer. And so we built it like a mystery. You know, we had a bunch of suspects and a bunch of misleads. You know, oh, we wanted the audience to think it's this one. No, it must be this one. Oh, it's got to be this one. So we planted fake clues that people could follow on the way to the real one, which was the baby, Maggie. You know, before that, the way we would promote shows was by casting famous people in the episode. So anytime you see like a famous person in the episode, that's a deliberate attempt to get promotion, because, you know, that actor will then go do an interview and talk about The Simpsons, and maybe somebody in a newspaper writes about them. So that was our primary source of promotion.
Mamá, adivina qué. Vamos a ir a la tierra de Tommy y Daly.
No.
Yeah, Itchy and Scratchy Land. I remember that when I was a writer on the show during that one. And the showrunner at the time was a guy named David Merkin. And Merkin's super funny, super talented guy. And he loved Monty Python. And, you know, the Monty Python and the Holy Grail. There's a famous scene where a knight tries to fight. He gets his arm cut off, then his other arm and both his legs. And he's still trying to fight with no arms and legs. And there's a huge amount of blood in the scene. And it was just the most crazily violent thing that had ever been done in comedy. And David Merkin was a huge fan of Monty Python, that kind of comedy. David just had a love of putting violence in cartoons. So Itchy and Scratchy Land was for David Merkin just like the greatest thing ever. And he pushed it, you know, farther than that show had ever gone. The origins of The Simpsons, you know, it comes from James L. Brooks, who did Taxi and Mary Tyler Moore. James L. Brooks did As Good as It Gets. He's the master of the realistic, emotional comedies of the movies and TV. So The Simpsons had that kind of sensibility. It was an emotionally sensitive family show that had big animated jokes. And it changed a little bit under Merkin. Merkin pushed the tone into, at least in that episode, really in a direction that it had never gone before. And yeah, there was some objection by the network because they thought it was too much for family entertainment.
Hago un pequeño paréntesis porque esta pregunta que le hice sobre Tommy y Daly tiene que ver con rumores que circulan en internet que dicen que Fox presionó tanto a los guionistas como a los productores de la serie para que dejaran de mostrarlos porque les parecían muy violentos. Si bien Brent no se acordaba particularmente de que haya habido algún tipo de presión, por supuesto porque también él no formaba parte de esas charlas, le pregunté a Algin en Twitter directamente qué se acordaba de esto. Y aunque me dijo que esa presión por parte del estudio no fue tan así, sí me reconoció que dudaron si seguir poniéndolos o no. Pero no por la violencia, sino porque sentía que estaban repitiendo el mismo chiste una y otra vez. Ahora, ¿qué hubieses pensado vos si Tommy y Daly no hubieran seguido siendo parte de Los Simpson?
Well, I have my theory of why this happens. The Simpsons, more than any other show that I've ever seen, it uses a ton of material, lots and lots of things that can be memed, a flash forward, a flashback, a dream sequence, you know, quick material. And so it consumes a huge amount of material. The Simpsons has also been on the air longer than any show in the history of television. And so there are thousands and thousands of predictions, most of which have not come true. Right? 99% of the things predicted by The Simpsons did not happen. But because there have just been so many things, occasionally, coincidentally, something will happen. My favorite one was John Travolta, the acting career of John Travolta. He had been a famous actor who had then become nobody. And when he was nobody, we put him on The Simpsons. We actually didn't even bother to hire the real John Travolta. We just got an actor to impersonate him.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Yeah, and then within a year, Quentin Tarantino cast him in Pulp Fiction, and that has happened more than once on The Simpsons, where an actor has zero career. We refer to him on The Simpsons, and then like a year later, they blow up again. So for me, I love that. I think that's a great use of the show.
The 70s, right down to the smallest detail.
Hey, the bartender even looks like John Travolta.
Yeah, looks like.